Capital acquisitions tax is the tax that is on inheritance in wills and on gifts. So there's two elements to capital acquisitions tax. One is inheritance tax and two is gift tax, and they both come under the umbrella of capital acquisitions tax. There are a number of exemptions and reliefs which will ensure that you pay little or no tax if you qualify for the relief or for the exemption. And 7 of the most popular reliefs or exemptions from capital acquisitions tax would include favourite niece or nephew relief. Number 2, business relief. Business relief would involve the transfer of a business and the possible, provided the conditions are met, the possible valuation of that business at 10% of its actual value. So for tax purposes, the value of the business would be 10% of the actual value of the business. In other words, if the business is worth $1 million, for tax purposes and for capital acquisitions tax purposes, it's valued at 10%, which is 100,000. So if you give a gift like that to a child, well then they don't pay any tax, simply because they have a tax threshold in respect of a gift or inheritance from a parent of 335,000. Number 3 is agricultural relief. Agricultural relief is similar to business relief. It allows you to reduce the value of the agricultural asset, agricultural land, from 100% down to say 10% for the purposes of the relief. So again, if the farm is worth $1 million, then for tax purposes, for this purpose, capital acquisitions tax purpose, then the farm or agricultural land is valued at 10%, which is 100,000. Then there is dwelling house relief, that's number 4. Dwelling house relief allows the gift of a dwelling house or the passing on of a dwelling house in a will by way of inheritance with no tax virtually, provided certain conditions are met. The 5th capital acquisitions tax relief or exemption is the small gift exemption. The small gift exemption means that you can give €3,000 each year to a person, any person, and it's not taxable for that person. So, you know, theoretically, you could give €3,000 every year for 30 years to somebody, and over obviously the lifetime of that money, the 90 grand, whatever it is, then they're getting that gift from you over 30 years and they're not paying any tax on it. That's the small gift exemption. And you can do this in relation to anybody, not just your children or relations. The 6th and final, or the 6th and second last exemption I'm going to refer to here is the spousal or civil partner exemption. In other words, a spouse or a civil partner can transfer, can gift property or anything else for that matter to a spouse or civil partner, and the civil partner or spouse who is the donee, who is the recipient, does not have to pay capital acquisitions tax. And finally, there's a thing called a Section 72 policy. If I was giving or in a position to give a lot of huge benefit to one of my children or all of my children, and I was concerned about the tax benefits or the tax liability that's going to accrue to the child, then I can take out a Section 72 policy which will provide for the payment on my death of the tax that would the child might have to pay. So if I was giving a child a house worth €1 million and the house obviously, if it didn't qualify for dwelling house relief or any other relief, then theoretically in the hands of the child with an exemption or a tax threshold of 335,000, that child would be taxed on say 665 grand. So I could obviously would be concerned about that at 33%. I could make provision for that though by taking out a Section 72 policy. I'm going to deal with a lot of these reliefs, business relief especially, agricultural relief especially, small gifts as well, and some of the others on my YouTube channel, but you can also read and learn more about them on my website businessandlegal.ie. I have a couple of videos in the can. I haven't published them yet in relation to these specific reliefs, but I will be publishing them in due course in a bit more detail. For example, agricultural relief and business relief, what are the conditions, in what circumstances can the relief be clawed back by the taxman, and so on. Hope you find this video. That's just the 7 though, and these are 7. There are other reliefs, there are other exemptions as well, but these I think are the big ones. These are the most important ones. Hope you find the video useful. If you do, please give it a thumbs up down below. Thanks a lot.